Hey there YouTube, this is SJM4306, and you might have seen in a recent video, mailbag that I did. I got this Game Boy Advance SP backlit model for ridiculously cheap. And I played around with it a little bit, and the problem I was having with the power switch seems to have gone away just from using it. It was probably a little crusty. But what I am going to do is open it up, clean it, and probably do a case swap with the other unit that I have, which is frontlit. That's actually much nicer condition. So we're going to go through that in this video. I've already done a case swap video before, so I'm going to fast forward through those parts and basically just explain anything, unique or important that you need to keep in mind. But I'm going to fast forward through all the tedious bits because I've already done it in a past video. So let's get right in. Okay, so let's crack her open. She's a little bit sticky, which I'm gonna guess means that there's some kind of soda spillage or whatnot. And yeah, some of the screws are very crusty, so I'm gonna have to give those a clean as well. Yeah, you can definitely see there's some kind of brown, I'm gonna guess it's soda in there. So yeah, let's peel this off. So oddly enough, it's almost like the board is stuck, and you can see some corrosion in there as well. There we go. Yeah, so it was definitely stuck. There's some sticky, soda or something that dried that was sticking the port to there. So this guy is definitely going to be thoroughly cleaned. So when taking off the ribbon cable, it helps sometimes if you open the screen halfway. It gives it a couple more centimeters of clearance on the cable, so you can get in there easier and remove that right there. The shoulder buttons they're okay. I think it's just because it's sticky. One of them was not as responsive as the other one, but they both feel like the actual buttons themselves feel fine, so that's probably okay. So we're just going to set aside the top screen here, and we're going to remove the shoulder buttons. This is something I haven't shown in a previous video, exactly how to remove and put back the shoulder buttons, so I can do that right now. Okay, so little springs here and some plastic notches inside the body of the shell that you have to carefully lift up. Having tweezers helps, and you can kind of pull this aside as an entire unit. And so this is essentially just a spring, like a piece of metal in order to pivot on, and then the actual plastic itself. You can set them aside. These are not interchangeable. The left one and the right one are symmetrically different, so you can't just swap them out. It'll feel weird basically if you try doing that. So on really bad ones, I found these were actually rusted and stuck to the case, and it was difficult to remove, but this one's not too bad. So here's the other spring and the shoulder button. You can leave this guy in here. There's no point in taking that out in order to clean, but I will remove this bottom plate here. So a little bit scratched up, but this part's actually pretty clean, so we can set that aside. So, rule of thumb, if you don't already have it, get some high percentage isopropyl alcohol. This guy here is 91%. Got this at a drugstore, like a medicine pharmacy type place. They'll have this type of stuff. It's usually used for first aid, like antiseptic kind of stuff. And it's very good at dissolving stuff, and it has a high vapor pressure, so it doesn't leave much behind. So it leaves it nice and squeaky clean. So let's take out the power switch. And anywhere we see that brownish liquid, we're going to scrub, making sure we get the edges as well. There's usually a lot of contamination near the edges. Other places you want to watch for are these the wrist strap loops. they get a lot of grime in there. As well as this controller port. This actually is not the worst Game Boy Advance SP I've ever seen in terms of like damage and liquid damage and whatnot. You can see already the Q-tip is disgusting. So yeah, helps to have a handful of Q-tips go through. I would normally be wearing rubber gloves, but I don't really have any, so I'll just wash my hands real well afterwards. So the bottom is pretty clean now, well, clean enough for me at least. So yeah, apparently the light just shut off on my camera. Interesting. Anyway, so yeah, now the top part, similarly, we can remove this single screw here to get access to the hinge. And let's see, I'm going to remove using a sharp pair of tweezers these guys, or maybe I might need a, let's see, razor blade would help. Being careful not to damage the plastic. Just want to get underneath the rubber and then pull up. And I usually just stick them next to it so I don't lose them. Okay, and this guy has Phillips screws. Yeah, there's some controversy apparently in my first video. I had a commenter essentially insulting me, my personal intelligence and whatnot, because I said that there were Phillips screws under here, and he was adamantly sure that there were tri-wings. And I believe it depends on the model. I believe the original frontlit version, I think, have tri-wings under here, but all the backlit versions have Phillips. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but every backlit version I've taken apart always has these Phillips screws. They don't have tri-wings, but I remember my launch model silver frontlit GBA has tri-wings in here, so it's trivial. I don't know why he was arguing about it. Anyway, let's shut this. Just get under here. We can lift that off. You can see the backlight connector right in here, very shiny, and the LCD. You can just pull that out carefully, guide the ribbon cable out before lifting it out. This guy's quite dirty. So if you're interested, what you can do, let me shut this. You want to keep the alcohol lid shut, otherwise it'll evaporate pretty quick. You can actually get this light guide out. So I would use tweezers, and you can kind of lift, there's a tab here, you can kind of lift while pushing, and just wiggle it out, and eventually it'll find its way out. There we go. That can be cleaned separately. Sometimes, yeah, you could see there's some gunk that got in here as well. Another place you really need to make sure to clean is underneath the D-pad and within the button wells. Usually there's some gunk that gets seeped underneath the plastic in between the rubber. So we'll just go through. Speaker's usually pretty clean though, that's good. Now let's just get underneath the screen plastic. The corners get pretty dirty, dust and stuff can get underneath. Now let's get the top of the outer plastic. No need to remove the hinges. Generally, they're really hard to get out and to get in. I have a video showing that when I did the case change. I changed the shell on my Game Boy Advance SP. So if you're interested in that, you can watch it in that video, but I won't be taking this one out since the hinge works just fine. Now let's just get the crevices on the top half and then the outer. Ah, missed the trash can. This really is a labor of love. Not a lot of people will bother. Yeah, there's some kind of dried stuff on top that's kind of weird. Looks like almost adhesive or something, or dirt. There we go. That's not too shabby looking. It's a little bit scratched up, but I'll be switching it for this unit, which is much nicer, you can see. So finally, two last things to clean now. Other than all the buttons, obviously. This battery bay door is pretty icky. Make sure to get the inside and the outside. Oh, sorry. There's like a little ridge around it too. You want to make sure you scrub into that. There we go. Also, it's a good idea if you can get the Q-tip in there, get inside these screw wells. That's an annoying sound. There we go. Okay. Next is the ribbon hinge cover. I'm gonna get around the sides. It's a bit crusty, as well as the top and bottom. There we go. For the rubber pads, it's just sufficient to, you can take the same Q-tip and go around, and anything that's on there, just pick it up. Helps if you put it on a table. Make sure there's nothing on the other side. Speaker's clean, the grill cloth is clean. Now the button. Every console that I get secondhand, I give it a thorough cleaning. Because number one, they're usually disgusting. I don't want to hold them, much less play with them. But also, it sort of makes me feel closer to the console, having cleaned it myself personally. Yeah, that's fine. Power switch, sometimes you'll notice a little bit around the protruding button. And the A and B buttons usually have within the indentation markings. These are pretty clean. So yeah, this is the last few buttons. The shoulder buttons are by far always the dirtiest. These guys, just want to get in there. There we go. Also helps if you have a pocket knife or some kind of X-Acto blade to carefully scrape away some of the gunk if it's not dissolving. This guy, I might do that in a second. Yeah, like I noticed, the left button was a little less responsive. It has all this, it looks like almost gum or glue or something. Well, it's turned gummy. Stuck to it here, and so no wonder why it was harder to press the button. So I bet you once I put this back together, it'll be fine. There's nothing wrong with the actual button itself. There we go. Good as new. So everything is as clean as I can reasonably get it without spending too much more time. Just gonna do last minute cleaning, and I'm gonna swap out the case halves between the two. But before I do that, just want to clean this guy up. So I don't think I showed this in the other video, but I can show you real quick how to remove the lens cover in case you want to replace it with the glass one or a replacement not as scratched one. So this one is a little bit scratched. I will probably be replacing this. So what you want to do is grab it at the edge here, it doesn't matter top or the edge down here, and just bend it, and the adhesive will stay with the screen while this flexible rubber part will come off. And then when you get to the other side, you just want to start from that corner, and there you go. Screen is perfectly good, and just this has to be replaced. So I'm just going to put this on top just to keep it clean, and I'll swap everything out now. So let me just go through, disassemble the other unit, and I'll do a sped up version of me reassembling. So I'll be back. Okay, so I have the other case back apart, and so we're just going to swap out all the components. So this is the backlit motherboard and screen, and this is the frontlit one that I had, but much nicer condition. So let's just go about putting this back together. So a tip that I have, if you want to be able to flip this over while keeping all the buttons in, is just put the board back in and put a single screw in the center, and that'll hold everything together so that you can flip it over and, you know, work on the top side without all the buttons falling out and without having to, you know, take them back out and put them back in. So I'm only going to put 2 of the screws in, and then seat the ribbon cable for the LCD and check that the LCD is working and that it's aligned and everything is okay before putting all the screws in and rebuttoning it back up, only to find that something's gone astray. So as I said, open this up, you know, 90-degree opening about. That'll give us a little more wiggle room for the LCD. Make sure these latches are out, and then while holding this very carefully, insert and get one of them in, do the other side, and then lock. Make sure they're both bottomed out. This one, okay, there we go. And it should be seated like that. You shouldn't be able to see any of the gold contact. And we can just put that in, shut it, and put 1 screw back in. Now grab the back, and we're just going to temporarily set this in. Make sure the power switch is in the off position. Set this in. Grab the battery. Put it in. Let's see if it still works. So on closer inspection, it looks like this lens is actually a little crooked. Because I swapped it with the nicer one, and it's nice and clean, but the alignment's off. So I have a trick for that. All you need is 2 pieces of Scotch tape. I would suggest leaving this back so it can rest on it, and you remove the lens. This is usually probably done by machine, so that's probably the main reason why it looks, you know, wonky if you try to put it on yourself. So what I do is I kind of align it first, put a little bit of tape on to keep the lens, at least on the outside, within a certain alignment so it doesn't move around. And then you can see it only fits in very precisely into the back case here. And then what we're going to do is mate these two together. And if you've done it carefully enough, I got a piece of dust in there, darn it. So yeah, luckily this way you can try a couple times. Piece of dust out of there. And we can take the tape off. Now let's recheck the alignment. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. So let's continue on. So as I said, these are a little bit tricky. So I'm going to take these apart and show you exactly how they go in. Okay, there we go. So the two pins are identical, that's not the issue. So you'll see in each of these plastic parts there's a divot that the metal part of the spring rests inside. And so each spring kind of points in one direction. One of them will be pointing in the downwards direction for the left or the right. So this guy is the left button, so it has to be pointing downwards in the left direction. So if you get the wrong spring in, the top metal part will be up here instead of down here. So it's pretty easy to see the right way. So all I do is I insert it like that, make sure it's flush, put the pin down, and then you can sort of relocate it, and the other metal end of the spring will be flapping out here. So you just take tweezers and you work it into the plastic frame there, and now your hinge is inside. Do the same thing for the other one. There you go. Perfect. So now, this actually fell out. That's interesting. Never had that happen before. Yeah. This is a pretty snug fit for this normally, so kind of just push it in there. And yeah, so everything's all together. Make sure the switch is in the right position. And you can just sort of drop it on top there. And let's screw everything. Okay, so let me get the other unit back together and I'll do a side-by-side comparison between the frontlit and the backlit model. So I'll be right back. Okay, quiz time. Which one is which? I'll open them up. You guys tell? It's pretty obvious already. So I'll throw them on. You can already see why I really stress getting the backlit version if you can. I mean, this is on its lowest setting too. So this is on its brightest setting, and it just blows it out of the water. So the one thing is you can turn off the light on this, the backlit version, or the frontlit version, sorry. You cannot turn it off on the backlit version, otherwise you wouldn't be able to see the game anyway. But that's not really that big of a deal, honestly. So yeah, definitely. Now I have two Game Boys. One, this guy is very, nice condition, some scratches, but definitely pretty good condition, backlit. And this guy is frontlit, in a little worse condition, but definitely still playable, and I can definitely sell this and actually make back the money that I bought the backlit version for. So anyway, yeah, I just wanted to make that quick video, and if you guys like the video, like, comment, subscribe, do whatever you guys do. So thank you guys, and I'll see you next time.